What's going on, guys? It's Jamie here. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to go through a couple of things that have massively helped my business out on the way to growing to seven figures and beyond. Now, this was a question that was popped into my Facebook group, which I'll leave a link below if you'd like to check that out, full of 53 odd hundred people all working to grow and monetize their audience, which is exactly what I teach in that community as well. So, all that being said, the question posed was in relation to a post that I put up. And they said, "How did you do it?" Now, that was actually in relation to hanging out with a bunch of six and seven figure marketers, all doing all sorts of cool stuff in e-commerce and agency and affiliate marketing and coaching and you name it. These folks all crush it in different levels of the game, doing a whole bunch of really really cool stuff. So I was hanging out with those folks, ended up going on winery tours and having a real good time and just connecting and networking and talking business as well. There's a whole bunch of that, of course, happens at these types of events. So the question was, how do you do it? Now, I just went and blindly assumed that this person was referring to how I've been able to grow and monetize my audience. And hopefully in going through this video, you guys are going to learn a couple of things that have helped me along the way and some of the overarching principles that I've had to apply over the years in order to get where I am in this game. Having said that, if this is the first time here, welcome. My name's Jamie Gardner. I'm a full-time coach and affiliate marketer, been online since 2011. What I talk about here in this channel is really just me documenting the last 14-ish years that I've been online. If any of that's of interest, feel free to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to smash the bell notification to stay up to date with all the goodies I'm going to be putting out. Right. So, having said that, this is about as complex as my videos go. I do some minor editing at times, but that's pretty much it. Right. Anyway, all that being said, I've tried a bunch of stuff online. Okay. And everything from Kindle to e-commerce stores to Amazon to eBay to arbitrage to CPA marketing to blogging to email list building to chatbot lists to, you name it. I've pretty much had a decent crack at pretty much everything at this point. And a lot of it wasn't successful. Most of it wasn't, to be perfectly fair. A bunch of reasons why. A lot of it was just lack of focus or the fact that I was expecting the results to come very, very quickly and they didn't manifest in the time that I thought they would. So therefore, I would seek greener pastures. Now, I've since learned from my mistakes. Hopefully, by going through this video, you guys are going to learn those as well. So, having said that, the reason why I'm telling you guys this is after everything I've done online and having taught now hundreds and hundreds of students to do similar things online, the categoric easiest way to get started and to build a hyper profitable business is to grow an audience, a community, right? If you can grow a community, and it doesn't matter if it's on school or I use something called Group App or Facebook or even on Instagram, although you can't have actual groups, the same principles do apply. It's about having that depth of relationship with your audience and being able to actually help them out before asking for the sale stuff, right? So, number one was in order for me to grow, I focused on my community. At the time when I first started actually growing my business and making some traction, had my first $1,000 day in 7 days from an audience that had about 370 odd people in it. I ended up extracting over $10,000 that very month, and then that later turned into up to $50,000 months in the years following that, as well as winning awards for crossing seven figures online, all that type of stuff as well. Now, that all stemmed from having an amazing community online. Like I said, there's a link below if you'd like to check that out. Number two is I connected with some amazing folks. Now, this is both my students, these are both other people I've met online, and also my tight network that I now have from being in this game for quite a while. And like I say, the question that was originally posed was off the back of a post regarding me hanging out with these types of people. And to be honest, it's that old cliche, which is if you're hanging out with four other millionaires, you're likely to be the fifth. I'm not quoting that verbatim, but you kind of get the idea, right? If people that you're in close proximity are getting the types of results that you want, you cannot not elevate your consciousness, right? You cannot not elevate your way of thinking and your goals and just even being part of that community environments through osmosis. You end up elevating yourself, which is incredible. And I know for myself, anytime I am in those types of rooms, I usually come away with tons of ideas and cash flow just tends to flow afterwards, to be perfectly honest. I get clarity on things, I get confidence in the direction I'm heading, and things just start to flow. I wasn't afraid to invest in myself. invested heavily over the years, and both my own personal development and also my business development strategies and tactics, all that type of stuff. But the key word there is finding mentors. Now, I am a slow learner, I must confess this. And when I got started, it took me 7.5 years, literally 7.5 years, not full time, right? I had jobs or all that type of stuff, right? There was life in the way. But for 7.5 years, I kept coming back to this idea of becoming an affiliate. Just kept wanting to work online somehow. I kept trying to figure it out. And it wasn't until I got rid of all this other junk, I sought out some mentoring and really just deployed a very simple strategy that things started really taking off. So my advice to you is, if you're like me and you're naturally a stubborn person, turn that stubbornness into focus and understand that you don't know everything, right? And we never will. And that's why we pay people money to get the information and the knowledge and the strategies that we need to head in the right direction with our business and our life, right? There are two ways to do it. I've discovered the two ways through my own personal experience. One was giving up the time which we cannot replace, which is time, right? That's the thing we cannot replace, sorry, is time. The thing we can replace, which always replaces itself over and over and over again in our lives, is money. It may not feel like that at times, but it always replaces itself, right? We can get it back. Can't get time back, right? So I know for a fact I would much rather give up the thing that I can replace, which is money, to get the education and strategies I need to shortcut that time it takes to get to where I want to go, right? So I can live my life how I choose to. Now, this was a very hard lesson for me to learn. I had to let go of a lot of ego along the way. I had to let go of all these hang-ups and I can do it myself. I'm an independent dude. I can do it myself. All that type of shit, which was really just holding me back, to be perfectly honest. And so my advice for anyone watching this is quite literally, it's not just because a coach is telling you, hey, you should invest and that's why you should buy my thing. It's actually founded in truth because of these reasons. Because if you go the other pathway, do you want to wait 7.5 years to get the success that you want? Right? That is the question you need to ask yourself. You're never going to get that time back. You're going to learn a bunch of shit, but you're never going to get that time back. But the cash, even if it costs you 5, 10 grand to start a business, which is nothing these days, by the way, it's such a tiny, tiny, tiny little amount in order to get to where you'd like to go in life, right? Don't be afraid to do that. Massive advice. Make connections. I am in sales, so therefore, as part of my intentionality is to find leads, but not every single person, human being that I connect with has to be a dollar figure, right? I am a human first and I'm a marketer second, right? And so I made connections. Some of them end up going somewhere, some of them don't, okay? And so sometimes it's okay just to go out there and connect with people that are in a similar space as you, right? Without any agenda either way. Can be a little bit tricky, but I would encourage you to try and do that as well, just to network. Address my own mindset clutter. This is a really big one, right? Like, we've all got this stuff happening in here, and it all comes back to, in my opinion, what's happened from our younger age, basically. And a lot of the stuff I'm dealing with now are things that have stemmed from my childhood, and I'm now having to address a lot of that stuff. So don't be afraid to spend the time it takes and the energy it takes to go back in time and look at some of that stuff and how you act today based on some of that stuff that has happened in your younger life, right? It's really, really powerful. But that ends up creating a lot of clutter. And what you'll find through going through this online marketing journey is it unlocks parts of you never even knew existed. And it can be really, really freeing once you do start to declutter a few things as well. Broke free from my comfort zones. I fucking hate public speaking. I hate it. Hate it. I fucking hate recording videos. Like, this feels like it's part of my soul that I really don't like. But I absolutely categorically know in my heart of hearts that the message that I have for someone out there is more powerful than my own insecurities. I know that someone is going to listen to this and they're going to go, all right, cool. Makes sense. A few things I can learn from someone that's been there, done that. And that is why I do it, right? Plus, I also don't want to let this beat me, right? I want to become better at speaking. I want to become better at communicating because I know my capacity to serve is going to improve once I do, right? But that's the point, is that you've got to relinquish the idea that safety is the best thing for you, because it's not. Because if you have goals and you're just like, I've got my little safety blanket on and life is a lot better in here, when you don't have to do anything, you don't have to erupt out of this comfort zone, you're never going to grow, right? You're not going to expand as a human being. You're not going to impact others along the way, and you're not going to live your full potential, right? So I would rather go and obliterate those comfort zones and face my fears and do all that stuff that I don't love doing in the search for my own personal freedom, which I have now earned. Um, Keep track of the numbers, right? A lot of the time, especially when you're doing personal branding stuff, so you're putting yourself out there like this, it's hard because it's so closely attached to our identity. And sometimes in doing so, we take everything real personally. So we might go and find someone, we might verbalize an offer to them. We might say, hey, look, I've got this thing, it's a couple of grand to get in. Do you want to check it out? And then they say no, or they ghost, so they don't say no. They don't have the capacity to say no, so they don't, right? And so then we take it personally. We're like, oh man, what was me? And what we forget in those moments is that it's nothing to do with us, right? It's nothing to do with us. This is just business. And if we were selling a product which is an extension of ourselves, so I don't know, like a pen, for example, there you go. If I was selling that, I wouldn't care if someone didn't want to buy it. I'd think, how can I improve my sales and marketing by doing that? But when we're doing it ourselves as personal brands, it is because of the close knit nature of that relationship. Then it's harder to let go of that, right? But you've got to just detach yourself a little bit and understand that this whole thing is just a game of numbers. How many leads am I getting? How many offers have I made to my audience? How much am I following up? Real simple stuff, right? And if you start to track those metrics, all of a sudden you're going to go, okay, well, none. I've got no leads. All right, well, we can fix that. I don't have an offer. Okay, well, we fix that too. It's not super hard. I don't know how many offers I've made. Okay, we probably made none if that's the case, right? So how are people going to buy? All right, cool. Well, now I've made 10 offers. Cool. Who are those people? No, people that they didn't have a credit card. Okay, cool. Well, they probably can't buy anything, right? So all I'm saying is that when you start to look at the metrics, then all of a sudden it becomes not just you; it's you analyzing your own business or someone else's in this case a lot of the time. Focus, so freaking hard. It is so hard. I get it, and look, it's tricky. Uh, your phone will go off about 1,000 times a day. Sometimes, without thinking about it, I will find myself in the middle of something, and then without thinking, I've picked up my phone and I'm watching videos. And I'm like, how did that happen? Like, I don't even remember the pathway that I took to get there. And so I've had to take things like that and understand, okay, that's me distracting myself because I need easier dopamine than what I'm currently getting. So what do I do to minimize that? Because I know that the thing that I need to do is the thing that's going to push me forward. So then I eradicate all the dopamine. I put my phone on airplane mode. I hide it. I throw it away, whatever it means. I close down all my tabs so I got one to focus on. And I don't listen to my phone if it's vibrating. I don't listen to any of that stuff. I basically go out there and make sure that there is a way for me to focus to get the thing done. Right? Give yourself deadlines is another really good tip on that as well. Learn to block out the noise. So there's a lot of external chatter, and I think I cover this a little bit later on as well. But your friends and family, they're a bunch of dicks, basically. And I perhaps shouldn't have said it like that on a public line, but they are. They really are. And if you think about some of the feedback that you get when you have an exciting announcement, like mum and dad got this freaking cool business thing, it's going to be amazing. People are like, really? Is it? Um, and that's not necessarily a fault of their own. What I've come to learn is they're not doing it because they're dicks. They're doing it because they love you and they want to protect you, right? And so they're living in a big bubble, and everyone is confined by this big bubble, like that, right? This is my philosophy on this, by the way. Could be completely wrong. Go do your own homework. But my theory is that we're living in this big kind of bubble, big emotional bubble. And when you're doing stuff that aligns with the values of your friends and family, like go to school, go to college, get a good job, do the thing, work your butt off for 60 years, get the retirement, die 2 years later. Like that's the dream, isn't it? Like that's kind of what everyone wants, more or less, right? And obviously we're changing as the world evolves and more information is available. I get that. But then if you think about it, you're doing something like, hey, I'm going to be an online marketer. I'm going to develop this app. I'm going to go get into sales. I'm going to start getting onto TikTok and shaking my stuff online. Like it deviates so far from the norm, then they often feel uncomfortable when you start breaking away outside of that bubble. And so they will emotionally try to pull you back down. in my opinion, in my experience, right? So you got to learn to block all that stuff out. I would encourage you to really dismiss it. And it's not that you fall out of love with your family. It's not that you did like completely just, all right, cool, I blocked out my family. What's next, Jamie? It's not about that. It's basically just making the conscious decision about what information you will feed yourself. And understand that if someone says something to you, it's not gospel. It doesn't have to be a reality for you, right? They aren't living your life. They're not going to die when it's time for you to pass on, right? That's not, they don't have that right to tell you that stuff. So therefore, you can take it, and if it's good information, cool. Understand sometimes it's just your ego talking that defies what they're telling you. Other times it's because you believe in your dream strong enough. And if you do believe in your dream, just give it a shot. That's the thing, right? What have you got to lose? Bit of pride, bit of money, whatever. Who cares? Both of which repair themselves. It's fine. So ideally, if you can block out the noise, that's the main thing. Think about, and I'm going to borrow a quote. I think it's from Dan Kennedy here. It's talking about racehorses, in particular the what do you call it? With the jockeys, those things that I don't know why they're doing that apparently, but the with the wheels, the wagon, horsey, wheel racing thing. The name will come to me anyway, but they have these things on so they don't get distracted by the other horses along the way, right? So you got to be like that. Put your blinders on and just head in one direction, block out the noise. Similar to what I was saying before, find ways to get in rooms with people that are crushing it, right? And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm not just talking business here. I'm talking people that are fitter than you, that are healthier than you, that have better relationships than you. Talking about people that are wealthier than you. I'm talking about people that are just living a good lifestyle that you feel is significantly beyond where you're currently at. Not because you're trying to like create some sort of self-judgment, you're trying to elevate your own sense of self by being in these rooms with these people. And the energy that builds in these types of environments is really, really powerful. Same as what I was saying before. So go find ways to get in there, even if you have to pay for it, right? I've done thousands of pieces of content, literally thousands, tens of thousands almost, probably, maybe not that much, but it's a lot. There is a lot out there. Actually, no, it would be tens of thousands because I've got a Twitter account, an old one, and I think that had maybe 15,000 pieces of content on it. And so you can imagine how much content I've created over the years in terms of written content, tweets, whatever, X's, what are they called? X's? I don't know, whatever. Got plenty of them too. Anyways, thousands of pieces of content, right? Iteration, repetition, iteration, repetition. You're going to get better at something if you deploy more energy towards it, right? More focus. Thousands of videos. I'm significantly better now on video than I am 2018 when I got started creating videos. I've since done thousands of them. Not every one is one I'm super proud of. Like I say, I'm not a massive fan of recording. I love going live, interestingly enough, but the whole pre-recorded stuff, not so much. Like I say, thousands of reps, literally thousands of reps. And you can't avoid that. The more repetitions you do with something, the better you're going to get at it, right? That's why I write copy that sells and emails and that type of stuff. Hundreds of offers made, if not thousands by now as well, to many, 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 many people. Thousands of rejections along the way. Avoided the trolls. There are people that they'll bash me for all sorts of stuff. I've had my own students bash me for all sorts of things, right? And it's hard when you look at this stuff and you absorb it. And that's why I say block out the noise, because when you absorb that stuff, you're like, oh, old butthead 69 didn't like me. They said something mean on my account. They were mean. And if you allow that in, then that will become your reality because you internalize it. And then you'll think, well, maybe it's true. So you just block that out. Don't worry about it, right? It's not your responsibility to control what they say. You can't control what they say, right? It's not your responsibility of their opinion either. So block that. Avoid negative friends and family. It's like I'm saying, friends and family, they're all a bunch of dicks. No, just kidding. They're not. They're really lovely. Sorry, if any of my friends and family watch it, I love you guys. I'm not, what I'm saying. Sometimes people, they just express an attitude and it is so far removed from where you want to head. And it comes from, like I say, that element of safety, but they don't mean harm in most cases. It's because they feel insignificant. If you happen to break out, that creates a fear in their mind. If you end up breaking outside that bubble and you're like, oh, the bubble I'm outside, I'm so free up here, it's great. You guys should come and check it out. Then that makes them feel insignificant. So in order to avoid that, they will just drag you down before it happens, right? A lot of the time. Like I say, my opinion, mum, dad, love you guys. You guys are different. You've always supported me. Everyone else, you're a dick. No, just kidding. Um, just so kidding. Oh my god. Hopefully none of my family ever watch this. Took control of what I put in my mind and my body. Now, uh, if we are healthy in our body, we're going to be healthier in our mind because it shows us that we have the discipline and self control to monitor the volume of food we're eating and the types of food we're eating, and also purely just based on the habit of that, it shows self love as well, right? So if I have an option, and I freaking love pizza. I'm the two things in my life, three. Wait, that's one, that's two, that's three. I'm like the count. The three things in my life that I would love to eat all day, every day: ice cream, pizza, and wine. None of which are freaking healthy for me, right? So you have to look at moderation. If I only ever ate ice cream, so if I had an option of eating ice cream and a some sort of like healthy vegetable thing or proteins or whatever it is, right? And I went for that as opposed to the ice cream, then it's an act of self love. I'm treating my body, I'm nurturing myself, right? So the better you can do that, the better your mindset becomes instantly because of that. And so therefore, it also allows you to control other elements of your life purely based on that because of the discipline that you are creating based on your self love of your body. Pretty cool stuff, right? Adapted good habits. I've got a few bad ones, a few vices, but most of them are pretty healthy. I think the ones that I've started with is, and I think it's from the James Clear Atomic Habits book, was habit stacking. And so one of the things he talks about is you do one little habit. And gave an example of a guy that ended up losing, it was like £1 billion or something like that. I'm making that number up, but it was a lot. It was a chunk of weight. And he did it over 2 years or a year or whatever it was. And so the first habit that this guy made was he forced himself to drive and enter the gym that he had a membership to. And that was the first habit that he had. And so he created that as a habit. He just went to the gym. And he stayed around sometimes for 5 minutes with his clothes fully on, without his workout stuff on, and then he'd bounce after 5 minutes. But then after a while, he's like, well, I'm here now. I might as well do something. So then all of a sudden, the next layer of that habit started to form, till eventually he was at the gym every day and he dropped a bunch of weight and became very healthy. And so I have taken something similar myself. So I do at the moment. Don't judge me for the people that actually walk a lot. This is pretty good for me, all right? So don't judge me. But I do 6,000 steps per day. That's a habit, and it gets to like 10 p.m. at night. If I've only done 5,200, I'll just walk around the apartment or go outside and whatever, right? Like I have to get it done that day. 137 push-ups and 137 squats every single day, and I've done that since 8th of June 2023. So every day, over 50,000 squats and push-ups, and probably about half in squats. I started a little bit later. I'm not going to go into the story about why the random number just now, but that's what I do. And then on top of that, I have a cold shower every day as well, right? So these are just some random habits that I have, but I've adapted good habits. I also have the habit of writing every day, producing content every day, of connecting with people every day, of making an offer every day as well. These are business related stuff, but if you can get into some of those habits from a business perspective in particular, I'm going to choose to put a money making potential thing out there into the wilderness, see what happens, right? If that's the habit that you form, so every day for 30 days, I'm going to make an offer or an invitation to someone. An offer or an invitation, whatever you want to call it, same. You cannot not start making money after a while. If you've got a good actual offer and you're inviting people to be part of that, you cannot not make money, right? I took unbelievably large amounts of self-responsibility. And so there's something really fascinating happened many years ago where I was in a state of doom and gloom, massive doom and gloom, and I was super broke, and life was not feeling very fun at that time in my life. And I thought, should I just end it? Like, is that probably the best option? Because no one really gives a shit about any other individual anyway, and I certainly didn't give a shit at that time in my life. I felt broke, felt pretty useless, and I was dealing with some pretty bad demons. And I thought, hang on a minute. I made a set of decisions to get to this point in my life, right? I made a bunch of decisions. Some of them were horrendously poor chosen decisions, but I made those decisions. I made them. Everything. I got to this point. I made those decisions to get to here. I created that thing. I did that thing. I made that choice. I did that thing. I went out with her instead of her. I did that. Whatever it was, right? I got to that point, and I was like, if I can make a set of decisions to get to here, I can now make a new set of decisions to get to where I want to go. And my life changed like that because I knew that it was my responsibility to get there. And I can now, as an individual sovereign entity, I can start making new decisions day on day to get to where I want to go. Crazy when you think about it. If you take ownership of that and you understand that everything you've created in your entire life it's your fault. It's of your own creation, which sounds really, really hard to accept, and your ego will have a bit of a battle with that for a while, to be honest. But if you can accept that, it's just this beautiful freedom that comes off the back of that. Because guess what? It means that the unlimited upside is, again, nothing but a choice that you make. Powerful stuff. Hope this resonates with someone. Made thousands of mistakes. I'm never afraid of failure. I've completely reprogrammed how failure looks in my mind. I used to have this fear of failure. I remember even when I was a child, people would say, "Well, what's your biggest fear?" "Oh, failure." Like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, everyone fails at something. That's the thing. Like, and it's just our ego that comes in the way and goes, "You should never fail." Because what does it really mean to fail? Like, your ego gets a bit bruised. You feel like a little bit humiliated for a second, but fuck that. Who gives a shit? Do you want to live how you want to live, or do you want to live how someone else has told you to live? Know what I choose every fucking time, right? But you've got to go and understand that it's not personal. If you make a mistake, it's not personal. You've got to learn from them, yeah, but it's not a personal thing. If there's something out there and like you put a spelling mistake out there, like, "Oh, woe is me, I'm the worst person ever," it's not like that. It's a blip on the radar. Not even that, right? We tend to over internalize so many of these things because we compound how important we think it is when it's not. Most of the time, it's not. We're not going to look back at most of our mistakes in life on our deathbed and go, "Oh gosh, I really wish I'd had peanut butter instead of jam on my toast that time. What a mistake that was. Oh, damn it, why?" Most of us don't have that way of thinking, right? Most of us are probably going to look back and hopefully focus on the good stuff that's happened in our life, right? And that's what I would suggest you do. But don't be afraid of mistakes. They're going to happen. And the more you focus on being afraid of them, the more that you're going to procrastinate because you're too scared of fucking up. And the more you procrastinate, the further you are away from your goals anyway. Like, it's so dumb to think like that. Anyway, keep persisting. If the success that you want was easy, everyone would have it. You've got to be super persistent. Perhaps not like me, because I'm a bit crazy like that, but you do have to be persistent. And honestly, this is how easy success can be, is if you keep knocking, the door will eventually open, right? Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. Try some more. Be unafraid of the mistakes you're going to make along the way. Connect with the right people. Do everything I've just said here, and you'll eventually get there, right? There's a blueprint out there for success for everyone, basically. Um, in recent times, I've gone through some turmoil as well, and not as bad as actually no, it was pretty bad, to be honest. And with that in mind, I still made sure I was out there helping others. Because if you think about, let's say that you are someone who might experience levels of depression or anxiety, things like that. And if we think about those two things I've just thrown out there, and they might be interchanged depending on your attitude to things. But if we look at those, it's a selfish view of the world. I am depressed. I am anxious. This makes me anxious. This makes me depressed. This is depressing. You're not looking at the outside world. You're looking internally, right? You're being selfish in that moment because you're looking at what you're experiencing, which of course we all do. No, I'm not judging you for that. I'm just saying, when we flip that on its head and we start to think, well, how can we give more? It feels better straight away when you're giving. You instantly feel better because you feel like you're worthy. You feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. And you're actually choosing not to be selfish in that moment. I'm not saying like if you are someone who's depressed or anxious, whatever. I'm not saying to dismiss the way that you're feeling, or that this isn't my line of work at all by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, no one should listen to me about anything ever. But the thing is that when you do give, it's going to relinquish a lot of those feelings anyway, because it's coming from this authentic, beautiful place, which is what I believe we're designed to do anyway. Um, chose not to take things personally. I already kind of covered this, but I'll just rattle on about it. Chose not to take things so personally when people threw stones. And people are going to throw stones at you, your methodologies, the way that you communicate. They're going to throw stones, even the people that you've helped. Like you've given your heart and soul to helping people, and they find their success through the help that you've given them. They'll turn around and they'll start throwing rocks at you. Sometimes your own personality, sometimes methodologies that you've taught, sometimes other things. Very, very hard not to take that personally, but it's a lesson that I've had to learn. Because if you think about going back to my comment about selfishness, we are all selfish. We see the world through our own vision only most of the time. And so therefore we think, okay, well, I want to make sales. And that person, they may have taught me how to make sales, but now I see that I've got a big audience. And I think there might be an easier way. There might not be an easier way, but they're going to certainly market to that as a pain point, right? Which is kind of crazy. But you can't take that personally. I've learned to dismiss it over the years as well. I forgave my own mistakes. It was very hard. I've always been very damning of my own sense of self, my own mistakes. You got to forgive yourself. Learn to trust myself. This one was really, really hard. I discovered recently through some linear regression stuff that I have not always trusted myself that much. And what I mean is like trusting my decisions and my leadership and things like that. Trusting myself to be able to communicate effectively to help the individuals out. Things like that. When I started to learn how to trust myself, things started taking off because I was like, cool, okay, I can do this. I've been telling myself I can't for a long time, telling myself it's hard for a long time, telling myself there's no buyers out there with money for a long time. What if I told myself something else? What if I just trusted that I'm in the right place at the right time at this moment? And when I let go of the need for any of this stuff to come to me, that's when it will appear. And whew, things just happen after that, right? Um, Easiest way I've found, and this is what I teach a lot of my students inside my programs, is start small, right? So, for example, I'm in high ticket sales, right? Selling anything from $1,500 up to sort of 15 grand type stuff. And if you imagine the average punter just arrives in this world and they're like, oh, okay, I want to sell something for 10 grand now. You're like, okay, cool. Well, go and chat to a bunch of strangers and build up some rapport, and then try and sell some stuff. Go, where you go. Here's the techniques and tactics and strategies and all this stuff. Go, go, go. Okay, cool. And scripts, if you want those, you can, go for it. Now the problem is most people have never done that before, and so asking a relative stranger to give either them as a coach, or like if they're promoting an affiliate product, for example, hey, you should buy this thing, it's really cool, it's 10 grand worth. Like all of a sudden this thing emotionally pops up and like, no, no, no. And so they often will avoid that entire dynamic because they don't want to deal with it, because they start feeling guilty and they start like all this kind of bullshit starts popping up. And so the easiest way, this is what I tell folks, the easiest way to start to develop trust in yourself is to go the other end of the spectrum and sell something low ticket. Sell something for like $5. And if you start selling something for $5 and you get a couple of those repetitions in, you start to learn to trust yourself. Like, cool, I got this is fine. Then you'll realize, and it will blow your mind, because you realize that the mechanism to sell something for $5 is no different than selling something for 15 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand, 1 grand, whatever. Same, same, same. Literally the same. But it's just a matter of you being confident enough to pull the trigger on that. That's all. So you're going to learn to trust yourself. Right, we're nearly there. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Understood the bigger picture. If I'm heading in a direction and the direction says I'm aiming for $1 million a year in my coaching business, then I need to look at, okay, is the thing that I'm doing right now, is that going to help me in the short term, medium term, or long term, or at all? And if the answer is no, it's not going to help at all, it's a distraction from the end goal, get rid of it. Don't do it. If it's the other three, then is it a priority now? Can I perhaps put this down the track a little bit? Maybe. Or even further down the track? Maybe. Can I outsource any of it? You might not be at that point in your business. Maybe. The point being is that if you keep an eye on the bigger picture on your, to borrow a line from my very good friend and mentor, Jake Karras, the North Star, right? If you've got your North Star, the direction you want to head, if you've got that in the forefront of your mind at all times, and you understand that bigger picture, then all of a sudden the peripheral noise doesn't matter as much. Is this important now? Probably not. Okay, cool. Well, I'll put that down now. I'll let go of my own ego that says that it's super important. I've put all this emotional energy into it, and I'll go do the thing that I know is going to drive my business forward to my big North Star. Right? Super powerful. Learn to set boundaries. Hard to do. If you're a people pleaser, it's really, really hard to do. You just want to be the nice person, the nice guy to everyone. But you can't be. You have to set boundaries. If people jump into your coaching program, for example, or they buy an affiliate offer, and I'll use the coaching things, that's more what I do. If they jump into your coaching and they've paid, for argument's sake, 2.5K, and it's a group coaching program, and you let them back and forth in DMs all the time, you're not setting boundaries, right? That's not part of the contractual terms of them jumping into that. You're not helping them out in the broader scheme of things. You think you are, but then they'll end up, what will happen is, and this is my experience, you'll put a disproportionate energy into helping these folks, and regardless of whether they do or do not make any sales through you at all, there will be zero loyalty, and if anything, they'll probably be one of the folks that goes off elsewhere and throws rocks at you. It happens many, many times, trust me. So you're better off setting those firm boundaries right from the start, even if it doesn't feel right. But that's what's in the programs, what's in the curriculum. No, getting these are the deliverables, and this is a very hard thing to do, and I'm still learning it, to be perfectly honest. But when you do, life will become a lot easier because you're like, cool, okay, well that's not what you paid for. And it's not all about money either. I'm not talking about that necessarily. It's just that if someone buys something $20 and they expect lifetime support and to be able to DM you every day and to hop on Zoom calls anytime they want, then absolutely not. Learn not to be a people pleaser, and having the courage to forge my own pathway. I started looking around my industry, and I started feeling very vulnerable because I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit different here. I like doing things in a very specific way. The rest of my industry and my tiny little bubble of the world with my tiny little audience felt like it was moving in a different direction. And I started thinking, well, maybe I should go in that direction as well. And then I stepped back. I was like, well, that's not me. That's not how I want to operate my business. I'm just doing what I've seen other folks do. And I was like, I need to forge my own pathway. I need to do what's right for me in my business. And it's hard, but you need to look after your own first and stop being a people pleaser, set those boundaries, and develop your business the way you want to as well. Similar to what I was saying before, just became really, really good friends with amazing people who helped me along the way. Both internationally, folks that I've just connected with that I wouldn't even see as mentors. Some of them are not massively above me in terms of experience and income, just that they might bring something else to the table. We might have a funny connection. We got a guy that I exchange memes with on a regular basis, like don't know much about each other. I've tried to pitch him a couple of times. He's tried to pitch me a couple of times. Super cool each way. We just now exchange memes, and now we're kind of like buddies with it. Like things like that. And I really, really admire that because it allows me to have a bit of fun with what I'm doing as well. Similar to what I was saying before, learn to self-trust. Open up to, it's meant to have an E in that, doesn't really matter. Open up to the unlimited abundance there truly is out there, right? There is so much opportunity, there's so much money out there. There's no shortage, I can assure you. And one of the problems with a lot of us wanting to attract something that doesn't yet exist in our reality is that we believe that us having is someone else not having, right? Because the media and different things, the way that we've been raised, has taught us that. So if I have a bunch of cash, that means someone else can't have cash. If I'm a billionaire, that means someone else can't be a billionaire. If I'm a billionaire, that means I'm greedy, which is just the dumbest attitude ever. It's like, think about a billionaire. Some of them may not pay taxes, right? But think about things like the taxes they may or may not pay. Think about the employees that they have that definitely pay income tax at least. The amount of employees that, if you think of the flow-on effect, if the billionaire employs someone at 100 grand a year, for argument's sake, right? 30% tax, depending on what the country is. So government gets paid, they get the 70 grand. That has a flow-on effect to their family, has a flow-on effect to their community because they're spending, has a flow-on effect to the broader economy because they are spending, buying stuff, food and housing, and yada, 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 all that type of stuff. So think about the billionaire, how many people they've actually helped realistically, as opposed to the person that's complaining about billionaires being greedy. Like, it just blows. Anyway, point being is that there's unlimited amounts of it. A bank, as soon as you deposit money in a bank, guess what? They can lend that off. I'm not sure the ratio these days, but this is reserve fractional banking. Go look it up. It's really fascinating. Anyway, they create money out of nothing. A bank is one of the only entities that can legally do it, which still blows my mind, right? Because you put money in, they can then lend off that. So the money doesn't really exist. It's numbers on a screen. So they just print more and more and more and more of it all the time. And if you look at nature provides evidence of this all the time. Fruit trees, there's usually too much fruit, always falls off, things like that. Acting quickly on ideas. Now, two things happen really goodly. That's a new word, I'm sticking with it. When you execute. So if I get an idea and it's in alignment with my business, if it's a completely separate idea altogether, don't bother, right? But if it's in alignment with where you're heading in your business, don't delay, because the two things that happen, one is you learn to trust yourself, you learn to not worry if it works or it doesn't, so you detach yourself from the outcome, and then you become confident in your capacity to get stuff done. And it drives, it's like a flywheel effect. It drives more and more and more and more good stuff happening, because you're like, cool, I'm going to execute on this, bang. And it could work, it could not, who cares, right? You're not going to break it. If you've got a personal brand, you put out an email one day or a post or whatever, and it completely flops, like, unless you've done something super polarizing, no one's going to turn around and go, I fucking hate you now. It might happen, but it's unlikely. And last but not least, the last thing I'll say here is, although there were times where my belief waned really heavily over the last 14 years for different reasons, I went bankrupt, for example, relationship breakdowns, got fired from different jobs, found myself broke on numerous occasions, certain business models that didn't work anymore, and ad accounts that got shut down, all that type of stuff. Through it all, underlying thing was that I still somehow had a spark of belief that it could be real. I just somehow believed that there was a better pathway out there for me than me rocking up to my job, exchanging 8 to 12 hours of my life, getting paid this much compared to that much I was making from my employers. I just knew that it could be real. I knew that if there were other people that weren't as smart as I was, that didn't have any particular skills I didn't think I could develop beyond what I currently had, then I could do it as well. If they can, then so can I. And so you have to hold an irrational belief, an irrational self-belief that you can make this work in order to finally get it to work. You have to have that irrational self-belief. And it's hard because sometimes it drops and you get, flummoxed by certain things in your world, and external things happen that you can't control in the offline world and your family and different things like that, right? But the more you can hold on to that, the quicker you can draw that to the lifestyle that you want. So that's it, guys. I massively appreciate you. This has gone on a little bit longer than I anticipated. Hopefully you got some nuggets out of this. I'm going to leave a link below to this. If you are brand new to affiliate marketing, or you've been in affiliate marketing for a little while, things haven't really worked out according to plan, it'll set you back a whopping $5 to check out the incredible program that I put together to help a bunch of folks out. I've had hundreds of students go through this that have told me that it is infinitely better than some of the $3,000 to $5,000 programs that they have purchased, right? And you can grab it for $5 So I'm going to leave that below. Guys, my name is Jamie Gardner. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate this. Drop any comments below. Let me know your thoughts. And if you want more of this stuff, you know where to find me as well. All right, guys, have a good one.